Square Enix loves its remakes and remasters of classic JRPGs, from the lackluster Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers edition to the absolutely bonkers alternate timeline of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. There is more than a few of them. This time around, they've gone ahead and given Dragon Quest III its 17th remake with Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, or DQ3 HD-2DR, inspired by the style popularized by Octopath Traveler. So right off the top in my reviews, I like to ask, who is this game for? And in the case of Dragon Quest III Remake, Square Enix is clearly targeting two different types of people. First and foremost, fans of Dragon Quest III and Dragon Quest in general that have been playing since, 1988. And second, people who have more recently played Octopath Traveler or a Triangle Strategy. Anyway, should fans new or old pick up another remake of a game first released in 1988? Let's take a closer look. I can say right off the bat that Square Enix has succeeded in revitalizing the look of Dragon Quest III with the HD-2D style. On the PlayStation 5, it runs flawlessly and looks stunning, with classic locations greatly enhanced with lighting effects and depth of field. This HD-2D style also gives battles an extra dimension that walks that line between classic JRPG feel and something fresh and modern. In short, this is the best looking version of Dragon Quest III. As a massive fan myself, however, I find the absolutely beautiful orchestral renditions of the classic tunes, from the overworld themes and the cheery village music, are what make this remake an absolute delight to play. The music drags me right back to a time when I'd stay up past my bedtime, playing Dragon Quest III on the Game Boy Color with one of those bendy worm lights so I could see. DQ3 HD-2DR is at its heart an old-school JRPG with high random encounter rates that turn every dungeon into a battle of attrition. Your party of 4 is made up of your protagonist, locked into the hero class, and 9 other classes that have different growth rates for their stats based on an esoteric personality system. If you've never played Dragon Quest III and want to pick it up after enjoying Octopath Traveler 2 or Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age, you're in for a bit of whiplash as it features many mechanics pulled from 1988. This also extends to the narrative. This time around, Square Enix included some half-decent in-engine cutscenes and some mediocre but often hilarious voice acting as the residents of this world have regional accents. The protagonist is the son of Ortega, a legendary hero that went off to fight the archfiend Baramos but disappeared. As you travel from village to town to castle solving problems galore, the charming residents there will speak of your legendary father. I won't spoil it here, but about 3/4 of the way through the game there's a fun little twist that cemented Dragon Quest III's story as an iconic one back in 1988, that is. This narrative isn't going to enrapture you like the recent Metaphor ReFantazio might have, or endear you like Octopath II Traveler's Cast, so don't expect that coming into it. Your protagonist is silent and so is your party. Personally, I'm happy they didn't change much other than giving the delivery a bit more oomph. Still, people without baked-in nostalgia like myself might find it a rather thin tale. But what about the battles themselves? Because the random encounter rate is so high, you're going to find yourself going up against iconic Dragon Quest monsters like bunnycorns and sea slimes more often than you'd probably like. That said, they've never looked better, with slick new pixel renderings and animations that make them feel more alive than their fully 3D renderings in other titles. I greatly enjoyed seeing the late Akira Toriyama's designs all over again, even if I was annoyed at how often random encounters triggered. I think modern JRPGs have simply softened me up a bit too much. These battles lack modern JRPG conventions like super moves, team-up attacks, or something like the press turn system seen in Persona. They're straightforward and based entirely around managing MP. I say that not as a detriment, as the simplicity has its own charm, but as a fair warning. The Dragon Quest III gameplay loop is also straightforward. Monsters in a new dungeon or area of the overworld map will absolutely wreck you and your party at first, so you have to grind or find new equipment to wreck them back. Treasure chests and loot from the baddies themselves help with this, along with some new hidden locations to find on the overworld map that house treasure. Much like in other versions of Dragon Quest III, this gameplay loop does not struggle to carry the 30-ish hour adventure through to its conclusion, though those used to more modern mechanics might find it lacking. Zelda is here to tell everybody to like and subscribe. This remake isn't just a coat of paint, however. Square Enix added a whole new class, the Monster Wrangler, and an expanded monster arena to pit your favorite critters against each other in. The Monster Wrangler borrows its attacks from Dragon Quest monsters themselves. Unfortunately, if you were expecting some kind of capture mechanic as seen in Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince, you'll be sorely disappointed. Here, you simply search out monsters the same way you would mini-medals or a treasure to send them to the arena, and once you reach a certain threshold, a new ability for the Monster Wrangler unlocks. While the class itself is a great and powerful addition for longtime fans that have played through this adventure a dozen times, the Monster Arena itself feels a little bare bones. Despite some great rewards for participating, I didn't feel motivated to do so as they felt like a slog to sit and watch my monsters fight for me. Victory mostly comes down to finding a high enough level monster to breeze through the matches, not any significant strategy. All told, Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake is one of the better remakes or remasters Square Enix has put out in recent years. It'll satisfy longtime fans of both the game and the series with its charming new HD-2D style, and entice newcomers that enjoyed the aesthetic elsewhere. At the same time, this is a classic JRPG through and through that might quickly turn off those newcomers with how straightforward the narrative and the turn-based battles are compared to its contemporaries. So, to answer my initial question, who is Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake for? Personally, I think longtime fans will enjoy the overall reworked aesthetic a great deal, while newcomers may struggle with some of the more archaic mechanics at first, but ultimately find it a rewarding experience. And I'm personally just happy to play more Dragon Quest, given that they're also going to give the HD-2D remake treatment to the first two games. Anyway, thank you for watching my review. If you like it, consider liking and subscribing. Thanks, bye!